So why now? Why come out with the autobiography now?
I got made the offer about 4 or 5 years ago, so I knew there was the demand there, and I thought I'll put it off a little bit, but since that time, it gave me an opportunity to kind of think about it and how to approach it, whether I could do it. I initially liked the idea of writing a book. I thought that would be a good challenge, and it never really occurred to me to get a ghostwriter to do it, or I don't know. I thought that would be missing a trick somewhat. I know a couple of writers, real writers, and I've seen what it takes to write a decent book, the discipline and application and the whole process. So I was under no illusions that I was just going to be able to knock off an autobiography on a tour bus, say. So I knew that I would have to stop music for a while. So I thought, well, I'll make a couple of records. I was making the solo records and I wanted to carry on with that. And I just set this time aside, which I thought would be good. And it turned out that, just totally coincidentally, that writing an autobiography now it doesn't feel like, sure, obviously it feels like looking back, of course, but I've still got other things going on. I took a little break while playing with Hans Zimmer and the orchestra around Europe, which was amazing, whilst I was writing the book. And that shakes things up a little bit. So I wrote some things in hotel rooms with Hans. But I'm glad that I've done it when I've still got lots of stuff going on, solo records and other projects. It feels like just part of one continuous story rather than the end of some, tale.
And you knew that the clamour would be your life with the Smiths, to know more about that. Lots of the book is dedicated to the Smiths. That was only up to the age of 23. It dominates the book. Does that bother you, that will still be the focus of people's interest in you, even though you've done so much stuff since then?
It would if it was everyone's focus of my life, but it isn't everybody's focus of my life. It's the media's focus of my life. It's what will define me. I'm fine with that anyway, because I was in a fantastic band. Being defined by something that happened and was over by the time you were 23 is something I've kind of reconciled anyway. But to answer your question, there's loads of people who like loads of other things I've done. They like the fans of mine who follow me, music fans, I think, know that I've had this long trajectory, and some of them like electronic and some of them like Modest Mouse, and believe it or not, some of them don't like the Smiths.
And you've said in the book, part of being a great musician is being a maverick, an outsider. You've been in the industry now over 30 years. Do you still feel like an outsider, despite the huge names you've been involved with, despite all the years and your solo work?
I think I do, yeah. I think I do feel like an outsider. I think just because of my mindset, I think the kind of... that's probably because of the culture that I came out of, what became indie culture, which is now, lots of things are the mainstream now. I think that is just the way, and particularly the way things have gone with technology and the internet. I could write a whole other book about that, or someone else who's smarter could write a better book about it. But I came out of a culture that was about pretty much opposition to the mainstream. However, when pop music or pop culture is at its best, films, particularly music, is when people with slightly, say, subversive or left field, say, sensibilities do something commercial. That happened with the Smiths. We had hits. Happens with bands like Blondie, David Bowie, Pet Shop Boys. On and on it goes. Arctic Monkeys. I really like that about pop culture. I like that it can cross over and gate crash the mainstream, and so yeah, I've basically been able to have my cake and eat it, which I think is obviously nice, but it takes some doing. But if I had to choose one or the other, I'd be on the outside. Yeah.
You talk about the very earliest days of falling in love with the guitar. What was it, at the age of 5, that just hooked you and has been with you ever since?
I honestly don't know what I saw as a little kid, because I was looking at this little toy guitar and I had to have it, and my mother talks about how she had to literally pull me away from this window until eventually she gave in and bought it for me. I've no idea why that is, because obviously it's got nothing to do with punk happening. This was in the late 60s when I was a little boy. I can only think it's some kind of esoteric thing or cosmic thing, because I didn't associate anyone with playing the guitar. My family were all very musical, amateur musicians, come from Ireland, but no one played the guitar. Maybe I'd seen it on television or something, but I just had to have this toy, and then I just carried it around with me everywhere I went. So I've never really there's never really been a time when that I can remember when I didn't have a guitar.
And you described that desire to produce music as a vocation. That was it. You were completely focused right from the start. You knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I had an incredible sort of passion and love for what music could do, because it was all around me, because my parents were really into records and they were into singing and playing. Well, my aunties particularly all sang. Irish family, didn't matter whether it was a Wednesday or a Monday or a Friday or a Saturday. If there was a bunch of us together in this house, any one of the houses that we lived in, and a party would break out, inevitably people would sing. It was great. And I was, a little boy, but I was privy to all of that and seeing all of that and seeing the sort of wonder of it. And they were talking about these very young adults, let loose in the inner city, and that really impressed me. But I love what songs did. I love what music could do for you. Some of it was very moving, some ballads, some of the introspective stuff that was sung, and that my parents played, It took me out myself a little bit. It sounds quite flowery and romantic, but I think that's an artistic impulse. Thinking that there's more to life than what we're seeing, and wanting to express it. And when you hear it and you go, what's that? In my case, it was better than everything else. Nothing to do with wanting to be a pop star or anything at that point. But then I saw there was this Irish band that used to play at parties and weddings and all of that, and I watched the way they set up their equipment. And these men would arrive with their amps and the guitars and the drum kit, and they set about it in a very professional manner, and it looked like a profession to me. So, I talk about it in the book, that I think that's when it occurred to me that, well, if this is a profession, well, why would you ever want to do anything else? Because these people are getting paid for it. I never, ever wanted to do anything else.
And the process of finding and meeting Stephen Morrissey, that might surprise people how quickly that just clicked. You knocked on his door, and then it went very quickly from there.
Well, so much is made of the differences in our personalities, which is there for everybody to see. And it's one of the reasons why we clicked. But crucially, because I was so obsessive and desperate, really, the desperation came not only out of wanting to get out of the suburbs, but because I was so romantic about bands and music and the need to do it. And also, I was getting good enough on it. People were starting to say I was good, so I thought, okay, I can give this a go. It's got to happen. That desperation, Morrissey had as well, I think. And part of that desperation came from, if it doesn't happen for me, I don't mean money, don't mean ambition. I mean living it, being able to do it every day. What am I going to do? Because I couldn't imagine anything else, Just wasn't in me to be a person who in their 30s look back and say, I used to be in a band, it didn't work out. I used to be a musician and now I'm not. And I think Morrissey was the same about being a writer, a lyricist and a singer in a band. So that's very fundamental. And to find someone else who's got that fundamental flaw almost, if you like, not able to have a future without it, was really amazing. And the fact that I could write music that he wanted to sing on and vice versa was an amazing thing.
And the fruits of that bonding that you had so quickly happened so quickly. You had these 4 albums which were just so incredibly successful in a space of 5 years.
Yeah.
That is so unusual.
Well, we're
One
really-
hit, huge hit,
Yeah.
after another.
Well, the Smiths were really driven to work. We were driven to try and do something great.
The work ethic comes over. I mean, this does not sound like it just happened. You were spending hour after hour after hour in the studio. You didn't emerge into daylight.
No, I'm still like that now, really. And I'm very grateful to have a life that I can do that. My life's led by work, and the Smiths were like that, particularly myself and Morrissey. Never had a holiday. Why would you want a holiday from the Smiths, you know, until 5 years in, when it would have been a good idea, frankly, but that's another story. But I think also the two of us, Morrissey and myself, knew what it took to be a great band, and it took no slacking off. Our heroes seemed to be very prolific. David Bowie, Roxy Music, people like that. And we were in love with the ideas and the next idea, and I'd still try to be that way now. What's the next thing? What's the next single? Well, what's it going to be? Being an artist. Sometimes people think that when musicians say, I'm an artist, that it is pretentious or... but I know a couple of people who are painters. A good friend of mine's a painter. And he doesn't work like I did, or like I still do, you know. And if he does, you know, the idea of, say, to an artist, the idea of stopping for 2 years to go off buying houses and trekking around the Amazon and whatever, like, why would you do that? You work every day. So in that respect, we were artists.
You said at the time you had a feeling that what you were creating was really good.
Yeah.
You weren't surprised by the level of success that suddenly started coming at you.
No, because I thought we were really good. I thought what we were doing was really good. I don't think I expected the success. No, I don't think I expected that.
You could tell.
Yeah, I thought we were good. I thought we were really great. But at the same time, the songs that we were doing in the early days were very odd, unusual, and it surprised me that we had early hits. This Charming Man was our second single, and it was a big hit, and it's kind of defined one of the things that's defined the band. It took Jeff Travis from Rough Trade to hear it and say that's the next single. I never knew. I just thought it was a great song, or a good new song. I think what it is half of me was being cocky and going, well, of course we're brilliant, because I was young and cocky. And the other half of me, private half of me, was surprised that songs with our subject matter and without long guitar solos and some of them were very short and eccentric music was getting in the charts. I mean, William, It Was Really Nothing was 2 minutes, 10 seconds long. We're almost daring each other to do weirder things, but still get in the charts. And then we got on a roll and it just seemed like we could do anything. But I think it's good to have a lot of self-assurance, but some humility as well, I think. I wasn't not humble.
What is more satisfying? What have you found over the years, working purely on your own or collaboratively, as you have done on so many occasions?
I really like collaborating. I think because I'm a guitar player, and I was first known for being in a four-piece archetypal rock group that split up, it's taken people some time to realise that I have more in common with someone like Brian Eno or Nile Rodgers in that I collaborate. I think after 30 years of doing it with The and Modest Mouse and so on, and the movies now, people know that about me, but it's not a sort of thing that guitar players are known for, particularly if you throw in, as I say, that I've come from being in a band in the first place. It comes as no surprise to me, because before the Smiths I was always in different bands. But to answer your question, I thought I was done collaborating when I started doing my solo records. And you thought, well, okay, you can't leave your own band. But I'm just collaborating again now. My next thing I'm doing is with Maxine Peake, the actress, which is a collaboration. I'm collaborating some more with Hans Zimmer on the movies. I've just written a song with Blondie. So I guess I'm a serial collaborator. There's no getting around it.
And you say working with Modest Mouse was one of your most rewarding experiences. What was it about that?
It was the happiest time of my life.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it coincided with me. My lifestyle really suited me. I got very fit, and that gave me a good energy. Nothing to do with my drink and drugs hell story or any of that business, you know. Drink and drugs were great, but if I thought that drink and drugs would make me a good musician, I'd still be doing it now. I don't have any kind of puritanical regrets or anything like that, horror stories. But I thought it would be a good idea and interesting to really run a few marathons and get fit, and it would be a very uncliched way of living. I just thought it'd be a more dignified and more productive way of being, you know, and different for a rock musician, you know, rock guitar player. And I'm a pretty all or nothing kind of person, so that coincided with me joining Modest Mouse. So I ended up like running 10 miles before a show, and running out in the snow and all of this before gigs. But Modest Mouse were and are a very interesting bunch of people, unfathomable music. I was able to join that band as a sort of British guitar expert, in a way. That was my role, and it was pretty successful. There's nothing like having an American #1 album to get you out the house. Yeah.
I would like to talk about your running and your fitness more in a little bit. I just wanted to talk to you about coming out of the Smiths and moving on. You found words from Paul McCartney particularly comforting when you were quite hurt about the process of what had happened.
Yeah. Well, when the Smiths split, I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't know that the phone was going to start ringing and Paul McCartney's manager was going to ask me to go and jam, or that I was going to work with with the Pretenders and all of these things that happened shortly after. My band had split up and my friendships were in tatters, and the media were making a real meal of it. Some of the band were making a real meal of it, and I was 23, so it was a tough thing. It was also very liberating because it needed to happen. When I went to play with Paul McCartney for the day, which was an incredible thing, we were playing and we got chatting, and he asked me, you know, what was going on. It was Linda was asking me what was going on with me and everything, and he was listening, and I thought, okay, well, I'll see if he can hit me up to any philosophical insight into what's going on with the breakup of a band. Figured that if anyone knows and can give me some advice, it'd be him. I didn't ask him for advice, I just told him, and he just said, that's bands for you. And it was actually a statement you can't really argue with, because that's what bands are like, you know. I thought it was good advice, and so I didn't really overthink it too much after that. But yeah, the period afterwards was amazing, and on the one hand, I was dealing with what I felt was like a hurricane of unpopularity, which was there in the media, and
Because you were being blamed for the breakup.
yeah, because I left the band, yeah, which was kind of hard for a little dude, to be fair to myself. But then on the other hand, I'd made a record with the Talking Heads, and I didn't know where those first steps were going to lead. But I just followed my nose and then people called me. I got to work with Brian Ferry, and then I think quite quickly after that I joined The. And then I was sorted once I joined The, because I was in a band with someone who was already my friend, Matt Johnson, and I was really supposed to be in The before I was in the Smiths, but it was just the 200 miles from Manchester to London that stopped me doing that because I couldn't afford to get down there. And I felt like I was in my favourite band, and it suited The that our backs were up against the wall, you know, because the media really gave us a hard time for me joining The and Matt for harbouring one of the Smiths, and all it did was make us more strong and belligerent, and everybody came out to see us, and we made a couple of great albums, and all the shows sold out, and it was fine. So once I got on that, it was all right.
One thread that's constant throughout the book, with everything else evolving, progressing, changing, is Angie.
Yeah.
You talk about that relationship. That has been such a constant, and it really comes over in the book. Your amazing relationship, starting at 15 and holding firm through everything that you've been through.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about doing an autobiography obviously is revealing, unless you're somebody who lives their life in the public eye all the time, which I'm not. But anyone who's ever known me will tell you that me and Angie are a pair. And we met at 15, she was 14, I was 15, and we met and got tight from the first moment we met. I had to run around, chasing around like an idiot for about 6 weeks, but that was her prerogative, you know, so...
It worked.
It did work, yeah. She knows what she's doing, but girls, but yeah, I mean, all the stuff with the Smiths split, the formation of the Smiths, being through all the journey that I've been on and everything, I've had my partner with me all the way, you know. And she's a pretty kick-ass person. She likes good guitar music. She knows a good riff when she hears one. She knows a nearly good riff when she hears one and can make it sound like Iggy, which was good advice. And yeah, I'm very, very lucky. It's an unusual thing. I know it's an unusual thing to be with the same person for 30 odd years, particularly in show business. So yeah, she's the constant that runs right through it, and well, obviously the most important person in my life. Yeah.
And did you worry that writing this book, also mentioning the time you met up with Morrissey just a few years ago, and even possibly discussed the thought of getting back together as the Smiths, did you think that this was going to whip up this hornet's nest of media questions again that you've had all that time since, of will the Smiths get back together? Yeah. You don't like that question, you hate being asked it, but you know it will keep coming. Yeah,
I mean, I understand it, but in all honesty, I didn't expect that it would be so focused, I nearly swore then, that it would be so reductive. I understand it. But you know, 30 years into it, and this is the truth, 30 years in, I know there are loads and loads of people who know the answer and they like what I'm doing. If that sounds defensive, it's not meant to. Not everybody is in the media. It's a media story. Lots of fans would love it, yes, but not as much as the journalists love it. Fans don't really ask that question. They get their interest, the narrative gets whipped up by the media, and I understand why, because it's a story, you know. But 30 years later, it doesn't really affect my life. I'd like for the band to be friends. That's a different deal, you know.
Can I ask you one quick question about the political situation we're in US elections coming up in a few days' time? The Smiths,
sure.
so well known for being political in their time. What do you make of what's going on?
I think the times politically are horrific. I really do. I think that the rhetoric of hatred and racism and conflict, it's just got really out of hand, I think. I'm all for democracy. Fantastic. I'm really more than happy to live in a democratic country, but it just seems to have gone across the line, and people are being slain on the street in the middle of a referendum. I mean, it really is going too far. And as far as Donald Trump goes, I honestly know that a pretty reasonable 12-year-old child would do a better job of running the United States than Donald Trump.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
Thank you
so much.
man.
No, that's all right.
I didn't
Hey,
get
sorry
onto
it went by
running.
so quickly.
No, it's fine.
Oh,
No.
There you go.
Hey, thank you very much.